Well, hi everyone, and greetings from northern Michigan. This is Bob the Science Guy. Right now I've got the telescope set up outside, and we're having a look at what's called the Horsehead Nebula and the Flame Nebula. Why don't you go ahead and just hit some stuff on the chat and make sure that everything's coming through okay while I adjust this image for you. We're going to set this image up so that we can see it well. So, first thing that we do is we normalize it. That brings all of these little curves in line with each other. Make sure that everything's come through okay while I adjust this image for you. Yeah, I can hear myself on YouTube, so I'm going to go ahead and shut that down. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move the curves right here. The black curve should be right at the peak of the data there. The white curve, bring it on down about here, because there's really nothing going on up here. And the mid-range, normally I like to do it right here where the data changes slope, but you'll notice here that I've got some vignetting. That's this stuff around on the outside. That's because I've got a dark frame going right now. If I turn that dark frame off, you see it just becomes a little different. But this is the Horsehead Nebula. So let's finish adjusting it a little bit. Now if we bring this out just a little, it'll extend the black. And we want to bring the middle one over. Bring it out a little bit. And then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and kind of zoom in on the area of interest right here. That's 16%. Here is 20. Now, this star is one of the stars in Orion's belt. This is called the Flame Nebula here. You guys don't see my cursor, do you? Okay. So you have two nebula right here. You've got a star in between them. That's one of the stars in Orion's belt. The one on top is called the Flame Nebula, and the one below it is called the Horsehead Nebula. And the reason for that, of course, it's got a horse head in it, right there. Now our tracking is real good. We're doing 3-minute subs right now. You see our stars are a little bit egg-shaped, but not too bad. These diffraction spikes that you see are from the wires controlling my camera, you know, the power supply and the video lead from my camera, which is actually in front of the telescope. That's the way a RASA is. Hey, Sergeant Rock. So we've got Richard Roberts making his first appearance with one of our live streams. Well done, sir. And of course we have our benefactor Judy Bassett here as well. And we're just going to have a quick look around and see what we have here. So let's zoom out a little bit. So once again, this is the Horsehead Nebula right here. And if you look up top, that's one of the stars in Orion's belt. And this is called the Flame Nebula right here. Made some nice horsehead bookends in school, huh? Did they look kind of like that? Right there. All right. Now you see we've got really nice definition of the stars with this image. Tonight we're using the RASA 11. The camera is the ZWO 6200 one-shot color, the MC model. And the mount is the Celestron CGX-L, which is a really good equatorial mount. It's got a capacity of 75 pounds, and it's set up on the pillar out on the observation platform. We don't have the observatory in yet, but that's coming in a month or so. It's all paid for. It's just waiting to be built. And then of course, we got to figure out how to get it over here from British Columbia, which is where it's being built. Well, tonight we have some requests, and I'm going to go ahead and start looking at some of those requests. So let's cancel the live stack here. We're going to go ahead and drop our time from 180 seconds. We're going to drop it down. Now let's go 4. Now, one of the things that you'll see on this is something called vignetting. So you see how it's very light in the center, but out in the corners it's kind of dark. That's called vignetting. And the way you fix that is you use something called flats, which basically lighten up the corners and darken the center. So when you go and do the adjustments on this, what you can do is get a little more even shot throughout the field. So we'll bring this out. And there we go. Now we've got nice even stars. Now we control the number of stars and their brightness by our exposure time and our gain. Right now we're running 4 seconds exposure and 225 gain. Unity on this particular camera is 102, and it goes, I don't know, I guess up to 600 or 700. It's a pretty good one. You want to see the Orion Nebula? Okay, let's go ahead and have a look at the Orion Nebula real quick. Now to do that, we've got a couple of things that we've got set up. First of all, this is guiding right here. We're going to turn that off for right now. But we also have a program here called Stellarium. Now, what Stellarium does, this is what the Horsehead and the Flame Nebula should look like. Now, if we go right down here, here is where the Orion Nebula is. This is all a big complex of nebula. So what we'll do is we'll go over here to M42, which is Orion. Hit search. And there it identifies Orion. There's a little satellite going by. And we hit Control 1. And what that'll do is that'll cause the telescope, which you see in the little yellow crosshairs there, to go down and zero right in on the Orion Nebula. So now the telescope should be looking at the Orion Nebula. So let's go back over here. And there it is, right in the center. See that? Now, let's go ahead and make this a little bit larger. Now there's the Orion Nebula. Now one thing that you'll notice is there's a set of 4 stars right here. These are normally lost in the exposures because in order to get all the color from the Orion Nebula, you have to overexpose these stars right here, right in the center of the nebula. I always thought it kind of looked like a butterfly. Somebody told me they thought it looked like a phoenix the other day. So what we're going to do now, since we're pretty much where we want to be, we're going to go over here to guiding. And we're going to start looping this screen up here. So now we've got a star field up here. Next, what we have to do is we have to select one of the stars to guide on. Once we've done that and start guiding, it'll lock on that star, which you see up here in the upper right as well, and it'll start guiding on that. The blue line that you see on this graph is the right ascension, and the red is the declination. And the idea is they want to try and make fine adjustments here to keep that star right in the crosshairs. So now we've done that. Let's go back over here. We're going to zoom out a little bit to 50%, and the reason for that will be apparent here in a second. So now let's go ahead and do a live stack. So Orion is M42, Messier 42. We're going to hit 90 seconds of exposure. There's 60. Let's go to 90. Now we're good there. We've got a gain of 225. And we're going to start live stacking. Let's just do one quick thing before we get it going. Let's bring it up to 400 or so and have a look at these stars. A little bit egg-shaped, but not too bad. Bring it back to 50. Put it right in the center. And we're going to hit live stack. Now what we're going to do is clear out the old stuff here from the Horsehead Nebula. Sometimes you got to hit the button a couple of times. There we go. Going to flatten that curve. We're going to flatten that curve. Going to go on down here. We're going to make sure that this one is flat as well. Now we're just going to wait. Now we're just going to wait another 10 seconds for that image to finish taking. Bring it up here to 90 seconds. Make sure that that's on. And we'll hit live stack. Now we've got everything where it's supposed to be. Sorry about that. I must have hit something accidentally. So here's the Orion Nebula. One of my favorite targets. And we'll just wait for the first image to come through. Can you guys hear me okay out there? You just did a gaming PC? I've got one upstairs, and that's going to be the gaming, that's going to be the PC for the observatory. It's the fastest PC model I found. Yeah, this is the first deep sky object many people find. You can see it with binoculars pretty easily. And if you've got good eyes and it's a dark night, you can actually see it just with your naked eye. So I'm coming through a bit loud. Anybody else think I'm loud? What I'll do is I'll go ahead, well, my levels here are perfect. I'm happy with these levels. Maybe just turn down your computer a little bit. And there is the Orion Nebula. Even without any adjustments, you can see the amount of detail in the gas clouds and such. So let's bring this up. We'll white balance it, like so. We're going to bring our black level up. I'm kind of happy with that. And there's the Great Orion Nebula right off the camera. Now if you zoom in a little bit, you can see a tremendous amount of detail. Even, well, let's get two images here. Down in the right lower, you'll see an orange bar that kind of progresses from left to right. See, it just disappeared. That's the image. That's the exposure time. And down here you'll see we have now two images stacked, one on top of the other. That's designed to cut out noise a little bit. And I'm going to point out a few things on this image that I think you may find interesting. First of all, notice that the core of the nebula is kind of blurred out. You know, it's burned out a bit. That's where those four bright stars are. In order to pick up the detail in the nebulosity, you kind of lose those stars. That's why you can't see stars if you're looking at the moon. If it's got enough exposure to see the stars, the moon's all blown out. If it's got enough exposure to see the moon, the stars are too dim. Now, if you go straight to the bottom of the image and look over to the left a little bit, you're going to see a bright star right there that has two diffraction spikes on it. And then it's actually got some kind of going out 90 degrees to those two. What that is that's the wires going to my camera. There's a power line going into the camera. There's a power connector, and then there's a video connector. Now, because those are near each other and don't have enough of a bend in it, it's giving you this strange diffraction spike pattern. Sometimes you'll see these as kind of like a crosshair on a star. On mine, because I've just got the wires going off in one particular direction, what I'm seeing is these opposing diffraction spikes. Now, when we come in a little bit, let's go to the full power of the camera. This is all the nebulosity that you'll see, and you'll see even with two images, three images stacked now, look at the amount of detail that you see. The little wispy nebulosities. These dark areas up here are dust clouds, cosmic dust. Just an amazing image with this camera. There you can really see those diffraction spikes. And you'll see them, they're on all the stars, but the smaller ones you can't really see as much. The bigger ones, they're a little bit more obvious. Look at the fine dust clouds in here. This is an unenhanced image. None of this stuff there are no curves put on any of this to bring out this dust. This is the way it naturally looks. It's just beautiful, isn't it? It's almost got a three-dimensional quality to it. The detail in this area is just stunning. Look at these dust clouds here. Here's the entire image. Now, right up here we have another nebula called the Running Man Nebula. Let me show you that real quick. This is the Running Man Nebula right here. I'm able to pick this up with 90-second subs. I've never really been able to image this really well, and it's just been very easy to image the last few days for me. But that's just kind of an amazing little, that's actually a separate nebula up there. You see those little diffraction spikes. This is true color, yes. The camera that we're using is a ZWO 6200 MC camera. It's a really good one-shot color camera. It's about the size of a coffee can. But this is literally right off the telescope live. We're actually stacking as we speak. We've got 5 images. This is 5 images stacked one on top of the other. The reason we stack these images is if you look in the dark area right here, we zoom in a little bit. You see how even that black is in the back? when you just have a single image, sometimes you'll get some graininess in that black, almost like it's painted on a textured surface of some sort. When you stack the images, what happens is the little changes between each image are evened out, and since the star is present in both of the images, it remains, but the little variations in the background, they even each other out over time. Now, just to give you an idea, we can come in almost to the pixel level with this. You see, my stars are a little bit egg-shaped, but not too bad. My polar alignment's pretty decent. Got a little bit of vignetting there. Let's go see what we can do about that. So this is what it looks like. Let me show you what it looks like without a flat. That's actually not too bad without a flat, and I think it brings the colors out a little bit more. We'll take the flat off for right now. Just beautiful stuff, isn't it? Yeah, hot pixels. All cameras have hot pixels. This one's relatively new, so I don't have many. But stacking will help with some of the hot pixels. What you do for that, though, is the other one is transistor noise. You take something called darks, which basically is you take pictures with a lens cap on, essentially. So that'll identify all of the hot pixels and then subtract them out. Whereas the dark frames, or the flat frames, you put a white t-shirt over the end of the telescope and a light, and you take 100 or so very quick, short exposure images, and it maps out that vignetting. And it evens everything out, although we're not having too much of a problem with it tonight. Okay, Slam DVW. Yes, I did take some pictures of the green comet the other day. I think that we've had a nice look at the Orion Nebula and the Running Man Nebula. Let's go ahead and look, see if we can find us a comet. How's that sound? So what we're going to do, let's open up Google, go to something called the Minor Planet Center. Now, this is something that's run by Harvard for the International Astronomical Union, and this tracks asteroids and comets. This is kind of a clearinghouse, so when I take measurements of the orbits of comets and asteroids, I report them here to the Minor Planet Center, it goes into the database. So right here, what we're going to want to do is we're going to go down to something called Other Observer Services, Observing Target List. Let's look at comets. Guys, so here's our comets. The one in question that you want to look at is this one right here. It's C 2022 E3 ZTF. Now, my location is in, so what I want to do is I want to have a look. This is the declination and the right ascension. So we're going to copy those, and then we're going to go back down here to this. We're going to stop live stacking. We're going to stop our guiding here just by hitting the stop in PhD2. Then we're going to go up to a neat feature on this. Let's go ahead and drop this down to 4 seconds first. Okay, so here's our location now. We're going to go up to something called sequence, which is right here on the top. And then we're going to go deep sky sequence planar. Now, if you look on these tabs up here, the middle one here says targeting. So we're going to hit that, and we're going to paste. We're going to paste our coordinates right in this box. And hit test. Now what's going on, you can see in this, we're actually slewing the telescope right now. You see the telescope is moving over now? Here's the telescope, that yellow crosshair that you're seeing. And it's going to head over here to where the comet is. I didn't check to see what the azimuth and the altitude is, but it's probably over in this area. Richard, how long have I been interested in astronomy? About 3 years. You know, I remember as a little boy in New Jersey when I was 6, thinking about the idea of building an observatory in the woods behind my house where we used to play, because I thought it would be really neat to be able to go out there and have telescopes and stuff. But I really started getting into it probably about 3 years ago. So here we are. Now, one thing that you'll notice is that the comet, and I've seen this before, the comet itself is going to be very close to the planet Mars. So let's zoom in on where we are. So you see that little rotating target there is where the comet is, and Mars is up here at 1230 or so above it. All right, so let's close these windows out. Now we're going to use another really neat feature. We have to go back on live view, which is one of these menu items up here. And we're also probably going to go and just put that on auto. Now down here on this histogram, what we want to do is we want to stretch it a little bit so we can see it. Well, there's the comet right there. Okay. Now let's just leave it right there. Well, let's go ahead and just complete the process here. So if we go up to Tools, we can go down to an item here that says Plate Solve and Resync. And what that will do is that will figure out what the telescope is actually looking at versus where it's supposed to be looking, which is where that crosshair is. And it's going to try and line those things up. So it's going to try and put that comet right in the crosshair. But you see the slew itself wasn't all that bad. There. So now it's got a solution to the plate. And let's see if it'll put it's moving the telescope to try and put the comet right in the center. And as you see, we hit it pretty well. That's a satellite, that big streak that just went by the way. So let's get rid of this. Now, comets, as you see, are very, very bright objects. So what we can do with this is let's go ahead and just, instead of being 90 seconds, let's bring this up to probably about 15 seconds, which I think is probably going to be pushing it a bit. And then, oh, the other thing that we want to do we do want to start guiding again. Probably don't need it for 15 seconds, but it's a procedure. So let's just try and do the same thing every time and get consistency. So now we're guiding. Comet's right in the center. Let's go ahead and hit live stack. We're going to clear out all of the old stuff that was in here. There we go. Okay, so we've stacked that. Now we got a couple of things that we have to do before we can get a really nice image here. First, we have to take this stretch off. So you see how we've got the diagonal histogram stretcher here? That's what we want. Then we want to go down here. We want to white balance it and line those curves up. See how that lined up? Then we're going to go over here and we're going to kind of get this adjusted a little bit so that it looks a little better. You want it right there by that peak. And there, ladies and gentlemen, we have it. There's the green comet. See, here is the core of the comet. And then you have the trails of the comet. There should be two of them. One is a dust trail, and the other is an ion trail. The dust trail follows where the comet was, and it's basically dust knocked off the comet. The ion trail is the result of the solar wind, so the ion trail will extend straight out past the comet from the sun. Now the interesting thing that you're going to see here is the stars will remain lined up, but as the comet is imaged, because the comet's moving so quickly, it'll actually start to streak. So you'll see this white line forming a streak. Well, actually, satellites are kind of an interesting question, Hads. And if you look right down here, you see on the left side here, it says stacking, and then it says default next to it. If you go over to something called sigma clipping, which will probably restart this stack, but that's okay. What sigma clipping does is it looks at the stack, and as the stack progresses, so you see it'll see these stars. Well, these stars will remain more or less in the same position from image to image. However, what will happen is a satellite will come through and form a streak, and that'll only be on one image in the stack. And the sigma clipping, what it does is it recognizes that that is a one-off thing, and it's probably a satellite, and it's probably not something that we want. So it'll de-emphasize that trail a little bit. That's why the NASA stickers on the telescope, you can hit a button and it'll hide all of the evidence of NASA activity in space. That's for the flat earthers. Oh, by the way, let's go up here a little bit. You see this graininess between the stars? See how grainy it is? That's why you stack images. As you stack those images, that graininess evens out and becomes a uniform black. That's why we stack images. It makes them sharper and more clear. Here's the full-size image. You know, or the full screen image. And what we can do is we can zoom in a little bit, as much as we want. See, that's only 50% zoomed. That's not even the raw size of the image. But there's our comet. Pretty cool, huh? And that's absolutely correct, Hads. The dust trail is what ultimately become meteors. That's what meteor showers are. The Earth's orbit is carrying the Earth through the trail of a comet. You know, as these comets go around in their orbit, they leave this trail behind them. And there's a lot of sand-sized particles in that trail And as the Earth comes into contact with those things, we get shooting stars and sometimes even fireballs. Now, Richard, you're getting an ST80. Is that an ST80 or an SV80? A stellar view? Is that what you got? Was a stellar view? Because I have a stellar view in SV80, and it is one of my favorite telescopes. Well, it's a pretty solid object right there, Judy. If it hits us, that won't be good. But there it is. It's a comet, and it's definitely green. Yeah, it's 3 minutes worth of images, and we're not getting a whole lot of streaking here. That's a nice shot of the comet. So what else would you guys like to see today? This is an 11-inch telescope, Richard, and it is like a Dobsonian. It's a very short focal length telescope. It's got a focal length of 620 millimeters, which really is not much. It's only 40 millimeters more than my little 80 millimeter refractor. So as a result, it's a very, very wide field and a very fast telescope. It's an f2.2. And what I use it for primarily, and what it's set up for right now, is I do asteroid research, and it's really good. You know, look at the size of this field. You know, I'm not even trying, and you see the amount of stars that I can pick up here. Well, some of these stars are probably asteroids. And what it does is you take generally 2 or 3 minute images, and you take about 60 of them, and then you run them through computer software that looks for objects that move from frame to frame. And, you know, you can identify those, and you can measure their orbits, and you can compare them against known asteroids. But that's the comets. So what do we want to see? You want to try and have a look at Mars. This is not the telescope to look at Mars. And I'm sorry about that. It's just not, and I'm going to show you why. The thing about planets is that you need focal length to see planets. You need big telescopes and a lot of focal length. You need like a C11. An 11-inch Schmidt Astrograph telescope, which will have a focal length of around 2,500 millimeters as opposed to 620. The focal length is what determines the magnification. So let's go on over here to Stellarium again. Here's where the telescope is now. There's Mars. Let's go up and have a look at Mars. Oops, sorry about that. Let's bring that back up so you can see it a little better. Okay, so the telescope is up by Mars. So I'm not going to worry about doing any plate solving or anything else. Let's go ahead and stop this. There's Mars, right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this up on 200%. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, the stars. This is just too much magnification. Let's try this. Now, planets are extremely bright. So the thing that you need for planets is you need very short exposure times. So let's bring this down to a second, well, half a second, quarter second. Let's see what we got here. See the difference in size just by removing the flare? That's why you can't really look at the sun unless you have a really good solar filter on. You're just going to get nothing but glare. And there's Mars. Can't see anything on it, can you? There's just not enough focal length on this telescope to be able to see anything. That's how big Mars is. Right there in the center, you see it? That's how big Mars is on this telescope in my field of view. I can't see crap with that. Not crap. There's just no way I'd be able to make out any details of that. Photographing planets, this is also the wrong camera to try and see all the grain here? That's the noise that I was talking about. This is just not the camera to take pictures of the planets with. What you need is a planetary camera. The way you take pictures of the planets is you actually take movies of them, because the focal length is, or the exposure time is so short. This thing here, it doesn't really work well for extremely short exposures. It's not made for that. And, you know, of course, the camera just won't do it. You need what's called a planetary camera for that. Now, let's see what else we have in here. So here's Orion. The Horsehead and the Flame Nebula are right next to this star here in Orion's belt. There's the star Sirius and Procyon. Sirius is Canis Major, and Procyon is Canis Minor, the puppy. And then right over here, you have Leptis, which is the rabbit. And you can see those if you go like that. So you see that looks like a bunny rabbit. That looks like a dog with Sirius as the collar. And there's the puppy right there, Procyon. Here's Betelgeuse and Rigel. So Rigel, Betelgeuse, Sirius, and Procyon are all what they call navigation stars. These are some of the first stars that you can see when the sun goes down. And that's why they use them as navigation stars. So just a quick look at the sky here. Here is Orion. You see the huntsman. Below him, directly below him, is Lepus, the rabbit. Canis Major, his hunting dog, right by his right foot. He's got his puppy with him, Canis Minor. Now here you'll also see one of the few constellations that actually looks like what it is. You can see Leo the Lion here, just above where it says E, down on the horizon. And that is one of what they call zodiacal constellations. Next to it is Cancer, and then Gemini. This is Pallas and Castor, these two big stars here. How do you tell which one's which? Well, Pallas, this is Pallas, and Castor has his foot in a cast. See his foot is in a cast? Now, here's an interesting thing that you may not notice. Look at what Orion is looking at. He's looking at two things. We'll do the heroic story first, and then we'll do the cringy story next. So he is shooting his bow at Cetus, the sea monster. Cetus was sent by Poseidon to take a human sacrifice of the daughter of Queen Cassiopeia and King Cepheus. And Cassiopeia had bragged that her daughter was the most beautiful woman in the universe. And as a result, that kind of pissed Poseidon off because he had a daughter he thought was pretty good looking too. So he sent storms to ravage Ethiopia. Well, the king consulted the oracle, and the oracle said, you've got to sacrifice your daughter to appease Poseidon. So they chained her daughter down by the sea. They chained the princess down by the sea. And he sent Cetus to come take her. Well, fortunately, Prince Perseus, up here above where it says Triangularum, was passing by on his winged sandals after having just slew Methuselah. And he heard the cries of Princess Andromeda. So, being a good man, instead of coming to her rescue, he went over and had a chat with her dad and said, look, I'll tell you what, I'm going to fix your daughter up here and take care of her, but I get to marry her. And Cepheus said, not a problem. So with his blessings, he went back and he rescued Princess Andromeda, and he took his magic sword and he killed Cetus, the sea monster. Now, here's another interesting thing that you'll see. Here is the North Star, Polaris in Ursa Minor, right up at the tip of the handle. Queens, the stars rotate in the northern hemisphere in a counterclockwise directions. Queens follow their kings. Princes chase their princesses. So, Queen Cassiopeia is following King Cepheus. Prince Perseus is chasing Princess Andromeda, and that is why we call the Andromeda Galaxy, or the Andromeda constellation, the Lady in Chains. And you can actually see the shackle right here in our nearest galactic neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy. That's the shackle that she's chained to the rock with. Excuse me. Get something to drink here in a minute. Now, the cringe part. Orion was not very well known for his ability to say no or understand what the word no meant. And he was chasing the 7 sisters of the Pleiades, who are right here. The Pleiades, by the way, are also called Subaru in the East, which is why you see them on the medallion of the car. So Zeus said, I know how to fix that. And he put the Pleiades here ahead of Orion. So even though Orion will chase, the Pleiades always are out of his reach. And they are in the zodiacal constellation Taurus. Here's the horns of the bull. Mars is in Taurus right now. Here's the tail and the body of the bull. That is the head of the bull. There's a little star cluster right here. And then there are the cluster of the Pleiades. As a matter of fact, let's go with the Pleiades. I think we can see them. Let's go get a nice view of the Pleiades. We're over in the neighborhood. Yep, Triangularum is a triangle. It's right there. And there's actually a galaxy in there called the Triangularum Galaxy. So let's go ahead and drop this down. Get about a 4-second image there. Okay, that's stopped. Now, in here are the Pleiades. So we can go right up here, hit M45, which is the name of the Pleiades. Let's go ahead and set this up. This is something I've been meaning to do for a while. So what we're going to do, so we're just going to put that on 30 seconds for right now. I want to start guiding, because I'm going to take some long images here. Okay. So now that's going to guide on that star. Now once that's set up and running, I'm going to let this image finish. We're going to move it up to 2 minutes after this image is finished. And then we're going to be amazed. So, 2 minutes. Normalize that. Start the live stack. Come on. Okay, that's started. Now, normalize that, and that's normalized. Gain 225, exposure time 120 seconds. Now we just sit down and wait for the magic to happen. Yes, actually, next to and attached to Andromeda, Hades, is the constellation Pegasus. And that is right here while we're waiting. So here's the bowl. There's Perseus, Queen Cassiopeia, and here should be Pegasus. This is Pegasus down in here, I think. And then here's the zodiacal constellation of Pisces. And here's Jupiter. Jupiter is way too low in the west for me to be able to see right now. I always thought Cepheus looked like a jack-in-the-box. This is Draco the Dragon. You can generally see him by looking at his head and then tracing him back, and they just kind of, his tail goes up between Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. It's called the portion here that's called the Big Dipper is what's known as an asterism. An asterism is a portion of a constellation. So this whole thing right here is the constellation Ursa Major. And this little part of it, consisting of his hindquarters and his tail, is what we call here in the United States the Big Dipper. Some people call it the ladle, some people call it the cleaver. You know, it's got different names in different areas. And here are the zodiacal constellations. So here's Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, and Pisces. Okay? Zodiacal constellations are on what's called the ecliptic. So anytime you want to see a solar system body like the moon or one of the planets, they'll be in the ecliptic, which is where the zodiacal constellations are. Can I get M46 from my location? Don't know. Let's see. We can find out soon enough. Well, here, we don't even need to do that. Let's just do M46. Give that a moment. Maybe. Yeah, we should be able to get that. It's in the southeast and it's up high enough. We'll look at that next. Let's go see what we have over here. So here are the Pleiades. This is a 2-minute exposure. Let's have a little fun with it. So, notice again the histogram. We've got red, green, and blue. Those are the color channels, and the white is what's called the luminance channel. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to white balance it and line up all of those. We want to line up all of these waveforms. Now, you can probably see the suggestion of it right here, but you see how this is kind of a brownish background, but there's like a haze around these? Let's fix the exposure a little bit and see what that looks like. Now the Pleiades, or Subaru, or M45, are very interesting because we used to think that they were stellar nurseries, and this was a nebula. '66 Hail Sagan. All right, so these are the Pleiades. How many images is this? This is 2 images. Look at the detail that you're seeing in these dust clouds. I mean, isn't that just amazing? But those are the Pleiades. So we used to think these are stellar nurseries, and the stars were all forming in these bluish dust clouds that you see here. That's the nicest image I've ever taken of those. However, as it turns out, the stars are in one location. The dust is just between us and the stars. They're not related at all. So there went that theory. That's actually a pretty nice image of the Pleiades. I kind of like that. Those are the 7 sisters. Of course, there's not 7 stars there. There's a lot more than that, but they call it the 7 sisters. I guess that's because what they used to be able to see. Yes, Ads, there's a lot of double stars out there. And there is indeed one in the handle of the Big Dipper that is a double. Polaris is a double star. This isn't a really good telescope to look at that kind of detail with, though. What you want to do is get a little longer focal length, like maybe the Schmidt Cassegrain or one of the refractors. Did this something happen here? Yeah, okay, the stream's still working okay. All right. If you want to study the stars and the planets, you need a little bit more focal length. What this telescope is designed to do is get very, very wide field images at relatively low magnification. You know, this is only 620 millimeters. I basically wanted to look at these because I thought, you know, hey, I've never seen these dust clouds out here, and I haven't really looked at it with long exposures, so I thought I'd have a quick look. But tonight is request night, and I do believe that you requested M46. Let's go ahead and stop that. We're going to go ahead and stop this. Let's drop this exposure down a little bit to about 4 seconds, just so we can get a little feedback as to where we are. Okay, now we're going to go down here to Stellarium. That should be M46 right there. We're going to go ahead and hit Control 1. Now, what the telescope is doing is it's slewing up and then coming around, because it's on one side of the meridian, which is the line going from the North Pole to the south. Okay, so So here is the north celestial pole here. And we want to go over here to the south. But the telescope was on the wrong side of the meridian, which goes from the North Pole to the south on the horizon. So it had to go up to the north and then come around the other end. You guys finding this enjoyable? Okay, so here we are. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to go back over here. We're shooting images, little 4-second images. And so here are the stars right now. That's probably what we're looking at, but we're going to go up here to Tools. We're going to go to Plate Solve and Resync. Now, what the computer is going to do is it's going to take a picture here, and it's going to, basically, it's going to find the brightest star, and it's going to draw a triangle between that bright star and the next two brightest stars next to it. Then it's going to find the next brightest star after that, and it's going to draw another triangle, and you're going to get thousands of little triangles drawn in here. Now, that pattern of triangles, it will compare to the star charts, and it'll figure out, well, the telescope is looking at this exact position. So you see it solved the plate, and now it knows what it's looking at. It thought it was looking someplace else, but now it knows exactly what it was looking at, but it also knows how to move to get over to that other object. So now this little open star cluster, which is probably M46 right here in the center, is right in the center of the image. So let's go see what we got. So we're going to go up here and just type in M46. Okay. We're going to go ahead and go down to PhD guiding. We're going to start the camera. We're going to pick a star to guide on, and it's that one up there with a square around it, and we're going to hit guide. Now, next we're going to go over here. We're going to normalize that. And we're going to change our exposure time from 4 seconds. I don't know, let's give it 60 and see what happens. And then we're just going to hit live stack. I don't know why it's doing that. Clear. Okay, so now it did it. Normalize that, normalize that. We're going to wait for this orange bar down here just above the time to count to 0. Now our image is going to come up. We're going to white balance it, get those curves together, and then we're going to go ahead. Okay. And this right in the center is a star cluster. And that is you say it's a planetary nebula, huh? We should be able to see that. Doesn't. Oh, wait a minute. Is that a ring? That's the Ring Nebula. Right there. All right. That's the Ring Nebula. I'm sorry I didn't recognize it right away. And that's it right there. But this gives you an idea of what's going on here. We've got a very, very short focal length telescope. So there's not a lot of magnification. It's very wide field. Let's bring it up to full power. And now what do we have? That is the famous Ring Nebula. That's a good call there, Chief. Thank you very much. Yep. I'm sorry I didn't pick that out when I first saw it. You know, M46 isn't one that I go to very often. I've seen the Ring Nebula before, I just didn't make the association. But there it is, there's a Ring Nebula right there. That's not an artifact, that's what it looks like. I've seen that with a Dobsonian telescope. And it does have these colors in it, including that red rim. Yeah, it's really cool, isn't it? That's only 2 images, too. I mean, there's really not that much in the line of noise out here. Probably because it's a cool night. I don't think I have the camera cooling on right now for some reason. This turns a little fan on the back of the camera on, and it cools down the, that reduces the amount of noise that you see. That one is a Ring Nebula. It's not the Ring Nebula. Okay. You say that's M57. Let's go see where that is. So all we do here is just hit M57. That doesn't look good. Yeah, and that would be a big no. We can't see that one. Yeah, I got one that we can, though. We'll do one more here. Get a few images on it. And then we're going to go ahead and have a look at some satellites, if it's all right with you guys. So let's turn off our tracking. Let's turn off our stacking. Yep, there it is right there. A tiny little thing, isn't it? We're going to drop this back down to 4 seconds. Go back out here. And let's hit Control 1 and see where we go. Ooh, that doesn't look good. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? What am I thinking? Let's go for the big boy. That's 32 degrees. We might be able to get that. I don't know. It's in a bad position for me. We might be looking through some trees. Ring nebula are kind of like a pressure or gas wave after a supernova. If you were to imagine a star exploding and an expanding bubble that came around it, that's basically what you're looking at with a ring nebula. At least that's my understanding of it. All right, let's go see if we see anything here. We may not. Yep, kind of looks like that. All right. We're going to have to be kind of quick with this one because I think we're going to lose it behind the trees. So I'm going to kind of quickly get this done. I'm going to go M31. Actually, let's go 2 minutes on that just to play it safe. I'm just kind of doing things rather quickly here because I want to catch this before it goes below the trees. So I'm just kind of getting everything done. I've talked you through everything, every other one. So I'm just going to breeze through this one. There we go. I look like Walter White too, especially when I had my hair cut and I had my beard. I was actually the spitting image of Walter White. Okay, here we go. We're cooking with gas here. We're cooking, Jesse. Okay, so there is our nearest neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy. Here we go. Now, going from the core of the Andromeda Galaxy, if you go out to about 8:30, you're going to see a second galaxy. The Andromeda Galaxy is Messier 31. This is Messier 110, which is a spiral galaxy, much further away, of course, than the Andromeda Galaxy. And this little dot down here at 1 o'clock, almost within the cloud of the galaxy, is Messier 32. I'm going to let that develop for a few minutes. Let's see what we have here. Can I go one more? Dare I go one more? Well, didn't too much. Does this give you an idea how big this son of a gun is? The Andromeda Galaxy, if you looked at it, if you could see it with your naked eye to this entire expanse, would be 5 times as wide as the full moon in our night sky. Richard, you have yourself a good night. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'm going to let this develop for a few more minutes. We'll get a couple of serial images on it. All right, guys, so that's basically astronomical. It's a little deep sky astrophotography. Let's go ahead and switch gears here a little bit. So we're going to go back over here. Dum, 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 dum. I'm going to turn off tracking real quick. I just like to clear it between each one. Just a personal habit. Drop this back down to fit. So that's the vignetting that you're seeing. You see, that's one of the reasons you take the dark frames, because you can get your exposure for the center and the outside isn't working right. Or you get it for the outside and the center is kind of blown out a little bit. So we're gonna, yeah, okay, hang on a second. Let me go see what he had. It's the light. Yeah, it's the light of 1 billion stars. Yep. The center core, where the black hole is, has got a lot of stars around it. That's why it's so bright. But there are an estimated 1 billion stars in the Andromeda Galaxy. It's bigger than the Milky Way. I think what we have, 800,000, something like that. We're going to go over to a different program now. So we're going to drop back down to 4-second exposures. We're going to stop our live stack. Okay. And what I'm going to do here, by the way, this right here, that might be what you see in binoculars. You're just going to see the core. Okay. You're not going to see these little galaxies. There's, the one right there, M32, and then out here on top it's M110. But we're going to go to a different program right now, and that's this one right here. This is called SkyTrack, and it's made by a guy up in Canada. The cool thing about it, these programs are actually really cheap. They're on the order of like $10 a year. So what we're going to do is, you see, we've got geostationary satellites here, and we're going to download something called the TLE file, which I've already done. TLE file is what's called a 2-line element. And while we do that, let's talk about Keplerian elements. There are 6 of them that describe orbits of satellites. Okay? The first 2, the orbit of a satellite, any satellite, be it man-made or a natural object, is elliptical. and there are two foci in the center of that ellipse. The star, or the body that the satellite is orbiting about, is at one of them, and the other's empty. So the first two elements of the Keplerian elements describe how big that eclipse is, or that ellipse is, and how much, basically how much off of a circle it is. So if you have a highly elliptical orbit, that'll be a long ways from a circle. If you have one like the Earth, where we just vary about 4 or 5%, that's very close to a circle. But the first two elements describe the size of the orbit and how much it is off of a circle. The second two is if you were to imagine a highly elliptical orbit going around the sun, and you were to look down on the sun from the north celestial pole. The third and the fourth element describe basically what is the orientation of that ellipse. Is it at 1 o'clock? Is it at 4 o'clock? Is it at 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock if you were to look down? And the other portion, the other part of that two element series is how much is it twisted, off of the ecliptic plane. So what's its general orientation, and how much is it tilted? If you were to take it, just twist it sideways. All right. And the fifth and the sixth elements describe basically, good night, honey. The fifth and the sixth element describe basically where is the satellite on that eclipse based on a certain time. So what we can do with this is we can go ahead and, how come this is not going somewhere? Let's start satellite tracking. Okay, so if you look at this small screen right here, let's make it a little bigger. Now, the black circle in the upper left, you see the little red circle there? That's where our telescope is looking, and the little blue dot down there at about 7 o'clock is where the satellite's going to be. These are what's called geostationary satellites, and if you look next to it on the Mercator map, you can see that satellite is sitting over Brazil right now, over the Amazon, and it is called Amazonas 5. And here you can get some information on Amazonas 5 if you wish. Okay, it was launched in 2017. Currently it is at an altitude of 35,807 kilometers, and it's 38,265 kilometers from me, and it's zipping along at 3,000 kilometers per second. So the circle is now green, which means that it's locked on the satellite. Let's go ahead and see whether or not we can spot it. Now, one thing that you'll notice is the stars are streaked. Okay? Now, I'm going to do something that, is just an extra little step. I could probably go in there and look, but I'm not going to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop satellite tracking, and I'm going to come back here, let those stars stabilize, and I'm going to plate solve and go right to where the satellite, right to where the thing was told to go, and then start tracking the satellite again. Now I can see them, they're right here, but we want to have them right in the center. That's why they're streaked. Okay, so we're tracking again. Give those stars a second to settle down, and there they are. There's a little star cluster up there, if you can see, a little concentration. So we're going to go to Tools. We're going to hit Plate Solve and Resync. Now you can see the satellites, because now the satellites are streaked right there. There's 3. And then there's a couple of trailing satellites. There's 3 more trailing satellites, and they're right in the center of the field. And there are the satellites right there. So there are 3 of the satellites. Give it a second. I've started tracking the satellites again. And there they are. There's 3 satellites right there. Now, if we zoom out a little bit, you'll see there are 3 satellites right here. They're lined up, stacked right on top of the other, right in the center. If you look towards the lower right corner, you'll see 3 more satellites in trail. Now, because the telescope is actually looking at the satellites and adjusting its movement to lock onto the satellites, that's why you see the stars are going by and they're streaked. Now, because satellites are so bright, one thing that we can do is we can actually slow this down a little bit. This is kind of neat because now you can see the satellites right in the center here. And you see them just slowly flying in formation through the star field. So you've got the 3 main ones right here in the center. And then going down towards the right lower corner, you'll see 1, 2, 3 more. So there's 6 satellites right in front of you right there. And they are moving relative to the background stars. See? Now the reason I could go right to those is we know the exact orbit of those satellites and where they will be at any second. And as a result, the telescope slews right to them. You saw originally, if you had seen them, when I first slewed there, I was very, very slightly off. And that has to do more with the slew area of the telescope than our inability to track those satellites. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Now, geostationary satellites are real easy to see. The one that you have trouble with is actually the ones that move. Because basically all I have to do is kind of point the telescope at them and stop moving the telescope because they're over a fixed spot on the Earth. So let's go over here to the TLE. Let's look at GPS operational satellites. I'm probably going to have to stop tracking those. So let's stop tracking that for a minute. Go over here to the TLE file. Let me shut that down for just a second. Let's bring it back up. See, the satellites, or the telescope's not tracking anything right now. Yep, thanks, Bob. 15 degree per hour drift. But the way a geostationary satellite works is that it's right over a spot on the Earth, so it moves with the Earth, so you don't have to do anything with your telescope. Now, with a GPS satellite, you have to physically track them, and they're a little bit more challenging. So let's find, here's one out to the east. Yeah, let's go with that one. Now, what I'm going to do here, so you see the red circle is coming over to the blue dot of the satellite. When it turns green, it's locked on. And now it's locked on. Now, This is a little bit more challenging because the satellite is moving in relationship to the ground. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to a 1 second exposure. Now, the satellite should be right in the center of the field. So we're going to start zooming in and see if we can see it. And there it is, right there. See it? Let's make it a little bigger so you can see it. Here, there is the satellite right there, right in that crosshair. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring it in a little bit more. Ah, crap. See how the stars are streaked? But the satellite itself is a small round dot. Now, to give you an idea of how well this is tracking, let's just leave that on for a moment. Why do we have 3 satellites so close together? Well, probably because different companies put the satellites up, or one is replacing the other. Okay. But you see, even though we've been tracking this for a little while, you see how it's just literally right in the crosshairs. It really hasn't moved that much. So that goes along with my, one of the opinions that I have, and everybody in astronomy has their own opinions, so take it with a grain of salt. If you have $1,500 because you want to get serious about getting into astronomy, and you want to set aside $1,500 to get yourself a mount and a telescope, spend all that money on the mount and get a set of binoculars or go out and just use your eyeball and learn the night sky. Trust me. The telescopes will follow. You will accumulate telescopes over your lifetime, and if you have a good mount to put them on, you can do stuff like this. I have 5 telescopes, and my wife complains continuously that my house looks like a telescope store because half of the living room is occupied with these water heater looking things just sitting on their ends. And because I do ham radio as well, she complains that the house is starting to look like a Soviet fishing trawler because I've got so damn many antennas upstairs. This is what happens. This is what happens when you become middle-aged and the kids are out of the house and you're not constantly going to football games and dance recitals and stuff. You start getting hobbies. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Now, here's an interesting question for you. Can you always see geostationary satellites? Can you always see GPS satellites? And can you always see satellites in low Earth orbit? Now, of course, I am referring to at night. I'm not asking you to see them during the day. And if you can't see them, why can't you see them? Yeah, and to be honest with you, Hans, is I have a set of Hummel astronomical binoculars. They're 25 power, 100 millimeter objective lenses. They're kind of crew served because they're heavier than hell. So I've got a stand for them, but those are mounted, the stand for those are mounted out on the railing of the observatory, and I use those when the weather's nice and the bugs aren't, when the bugs are being good. So let's go on over here and see if we can find another satellite. So we're going to stop tracking here, and when we stop tracking, the stars should settle down and the satellites streaking off. You see that? So we'll put tracking back on sidereal for the stars, so the stars stop. And now the satellite is going along its merry way. Now, let's go on over here and see if we can find some low Earth orbit satellites. Go over to the TLE file. We're going to get the 100 brightest satellites, and we're going to download the file for that. Now, why are these all red? Why is that black instead of blue? Okay. Where's this one? This one here we should be able to see. So let's give that a try and see if we can catch that little boy. Drop that down to about 40%. We'll see whether or not we can get it. The geostationary satellites eclipse during the equinox, because the geostationary satellites, which are way out in space, see an entire hemisphere as far as a north-south hemisphere of the Earth. However, the only time the Earth's shadow hits them is during the equinox, because they're in equatorial orbits. Otherwise, you can see them all the time. GPS satellites, likewise, will eclipse when they go through the shadow of the Earth, because they do move around the Earth. I'm thinking that might be it right there. But I'm thinking, too, that a 1 second exposure is too long for it, so we're going to go down to a 1/4 second. But you see how this one here is kind of squirrely? Why do you think it's flashing like that? Satellites rotate, and there may be different reflectivity on one side of the satellite versus the other, and we're only catching it when the sun glints off of it. Normally, you'd see that in a derelict satellite, one that's kind of tumbling. But it seems to be doing it here. But that's definitely the satellite right there. And the mount's doing a pretty good job keeping an eye on it. That's why you want to get a good mount. Yeah, derelict satellites. Normally, communication satellites are kind of in a fixed orientation to the surface of the Earth. But when they run out of fuel and they are at the end of their useful life, what happens is they don't have those little corrections that they need to keep them in that orientation, and they start rotating. You can actually do a photometry curve on them. And this is the first time I've ever seen one do this. There's no clouds up there right now. There's no reason for it to be blinking in and out like that. So I'm wondering whether that satellite's rotating or tumbling. It may be derelict. I don't know. But all of these satellites are eclipsed because they're very close to the surface of the Earth. And as a result, they're generally only visible just after sunset or just before sunrise, when the Earth their orbit has rotated into a position. Where the sun can hit it. And on Earth, that would only occur near the terminus line. You know, you'd only be able to see them during the terminus line. You see, this one right here should be eclipsed. And it literally just eclipsed. Yeah, that's 1 degree above this horizon. This one here's got a possibility. We may be able to get that one. No, that one's eclipsed too. This one's almost right over me. But it's dark. It won't come into the light until it gets up to this part of the orbit here. The ones that are in pink are too far away for me to see. The ones that are in green down here on this list are, I'm within the sight. You can see the green line around the satellite. That's where it would be in my view. But these are all eclipsed. These guys are over Greenland right now. Even west of me, it's still eclipsed. Yep. I'm not going to be able to see any of these low Earth orbit ones because they're just... Can you get binoculars that connect to the computer? Well, some binoculars will have threads on the eyepieces, and you may be able to put a nose piece from a camera on that. And I'm sure that you could probably, I could probably take a plate of some sort and mount the binoculars on my equatorial mount. But to be honest with you, I don't think that would work out so well. Now that said, they have binocular telescopes. So, for example, you saw the RASA on the thumbnail for this video. The big asteroid surveys, the sky surveys out west, lots of times don't use really big telescopes. What they do is they'll take that RASA and they'll put it in a quad mount. So they'll put 4 RASAs together. So basically, if you have 4 11-inch RASAs together, it's the equivalent of one 22-inch RASA with a focal length of 620 millimeters. So you get just these enormous wide field, very fast telescopes. So, in any event, let's get back to this here real quick. Okay, the moon's not up. Mars, we looked at. Uranus, we have no damn possibility of seeing. It's just too far away. These are double stars. I don't know, let's try a double star just to see if we can see it. Maybe I can play with the data a little bit and see if we can get a little better look at it. Dum, da, dum, dum. See, most of the time when I do this, I'm actually looking for something, or I'm doing a spot in the sky and I'm looking for asteroids. I don't often, just spend time just looking around like this. I decided to do it today simply because, it's fun to be able to go on out and just poke around. And it would be fun to go ahead and share this with you guys. Plus, especially for the people that donated to the telescope, it's nice to show them that I'm actually doing something with it that they can participate with. So I kind of do this for the Patreons and such. So let's go ahead and get this pointing in the right direction. That's what I want. Let's go down here. Lots of times the folks that support the channel, they're not necessarily all that interested in me taking this picture for 3 hours, but they're very interested in looking at galaxies and the moon and things like that. And, I like doing that once in a while too, just to kind of, for a change of pace. Now the ISS is, quite frankly, a bear. First of all, it's in low Earth orbit, which means that it is literally hauling butt as it goes by you. And, you may have trouble actually tracking it because it moves so fast. And, it's just very challenging to do, especially with a big telescope. If you want to see somebody that's really good at it, look at Astronomy Live. He has got a really nice setup using software that he designed that literally, it'll go to a star field. It'll go, you point it in a certain direction. And as the ISS comes by, it's much brighter than Venus. It's the brightest object in the field. And what it does is it locks on the brightest thing it can see and tracks it. And then it adds something else into it that's actually very interesting, and that is predictive tracking ability. And what he uses that for lots of times is rockets. Because if you are tracking a rocket and it goes into a cloud, it has the ability to literally follow that rocket through that cloud and predict where it's going to come out the other side and be pointing there. It's just really amazing. Once again, this is the wrong telescope to try and look at stars with, but if you tell me I can't do something, chances are I'm going to try it. But that's a double star right there. But truthfully, I can't call it. I mean, you're starting to see, I'm getting so zoomed in here at 300%, you're seeing hot pixels. That's what these little multicolored dots are. These aren't stars. The white thing there is a star. I can't see a double star. I'm sorry. I can't differentiate it. Just can't do it. I tried, though. Now, this is the list of current comets that we can see. I'm going to hit download comet orbital elements. That'll just help me find them a little bit better. Now, you see the magnitudes up here. I can't see any of these with the exception of that one. I can probably see that. Let's try that one. This is a magnitude 13 comet. I have a limiting magnitude with this telescope of about 19.5. I mean, I can't see anything dimmer than that. The higher the number, the dimmer the object. So, Sirius, which is, about the brightest star that we have, I think is 0 or 1. That's kind of like an index. The sun is something minus 26 or some crap like that, and the moon is like minus 14, the full moon. Full moon will actually hurt your eye looking through an eyepiece. I'm thinking that's the comet right in the center of the screen, but we're going to see. Comets don't look the same as stars do. They have a fuzz around them. Let's see if I'm there. No, that's what we were looking at earlier. Is this thing moving? Yeah, it doesn't like that one. This is a Shoemaker-Levy comet. Let's see if this will do it. It's not tracking the comet for some reason. But that's okay. It's more than one way to skin a cat. Remember what we did before. Minor planet center. Observers. Other observer service. Observing target list. Comets. Our little secret. What's that? Oh, hell yes. Yes. Citizen science is immensely important. Most asteroids are found by people like me. You know, old semi-retired guys with a good telescope in their backyard, nothing else to do. You know, that's why I do it. One of the main things that I do, my measurement abilities with my telescope are good to 1/10,000th of a degree. So in other words, when I measure an asteroid, my readings are within 1/10,000th of a degree of correct, about 1/3 to about 0.3 to 0.4 arc seconds. I observe asteroids and I measure their orbits. Last night I did 45 of them because I was up all night doing it. And I send those reports to the Minor Planet Center, and some of those reports are used to refine orbits. I had the possibility that I felt that I discovered an asteroid the other day, a near-Earth asteroid. Unfortunately, due to the weather that we have here, I wasn't able to observe it for 3 weeks. And by the time I was able to observe it again, the probability of where that asteroid was so wide I couldn't find it. So now here's the comet that we did earlier today. So like I said, and yes, so indeed we do have very good, a lot of people like us can make valid scientific discoveries. So we had a look at the big green comet earlier today. And let's look at a different one. The big green comet's this first one, C2022E3ZTF, and that is a magnitude 6.7 comet. We're going to look at this one right here, which is a 10.6. You know, I don't know right off the top of my head whether or not we're going to be able to see it, simply because I don't know where this points, and if it's in a bad location for me, we're just not going to see it. But I'm going to copy the coordinates. The right ascension and the declination is based on my location. No, there's not going to be an asteroid called Dr. Bob. There is going to be one named after Lori, my wife. There's going to be one named after Judy. There's going to be one named after Travis and my kids. And then I'm going to start naming them after flat earthers. So we're going to have a Nathan, you know, C2024, you know, C2024 Nathan. I'm going to start naming them after prominent flat earthers. So I've got the coordinates, the right ascension and the declination, which tells me where I should point my telescope. Now I'm going to go over to SharpCap. I'm going to go up to Sequencer, Sequence Planner, Targets, And I'm going to paste in the coordinates of that comet right here. Okay, and there it is. One thing I do want to do, oh hell, I'll just call it Comet. And then we're going to slew over there. Yeah, I'm definitely going to troll these guys, because if I discover it, I can name it, and I can name it anything I want within certain, there are certain parameters. For example, asteroids that are orbiting interior to the Earth, let's see, what is it? The Erin's asteroids, I believe they have to be named after minor Indian deities. The Trojan asteroids around Jupiter, all the ones at one point are named after Trojan heroes. All the ones at the other point are named after Greek heroes. There are certain conventions. You can't name it after a pet. The famous story is somebody did manage to name it after their cat, Mr. Spock, but since Mr. Spock was an actual human television character, they let him slide with that. I think that's it right there. That's probably it right there, but we're going to double check it. We're going to do... So there are certain rules that you can do. It's kind of like, it's also too, there's a character on the X-File named Scully. So if I wanted to name my observatory Scully, I'm allowed to do that, because I can name them after a person or a location or something, but I can't, I have to do it within certain bounds of decency. I can't, name it Sully as a goddess or anything like that, or Scully as a goddess. Okay, so let's go see. Just for laughs, that's where it thinks it is. Now, so what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in and see if there's a comet there. And there is. Look at that. That's a comet. Now, let me get this off. But let's look at this thing for a second. Look at the stars. See how the stars are discrete points of light? But the comet has fuzz around it? That's how you tell it's a comet. So we found a comet tonight, guys. It's a known comet, so no surprise there, but we went right to a comet. Let's give that a 30-second exposure and see what it looks like. As a matter of fact, while we're waiting for that to get done, I'm going to go ahead and turn tracking on. But that's what a comet looks like. Okay. Well, now that we're tracking, I'm going to go ahead and live stack this. Let's see if it's interesting at all. Okay, that's good. Now remember, when we do live stacking, what we want to do is we want to take any stretch out and adjust the stretch directly from here first. We can tweak it a little bit with the other one, but we're going to have a look at it here. Yes, that's exactly right. That's where we got the Messier list from. Messier was a comet hunter. I think he was French in the 18th century. And what he was doing is he was looking around for comets, just like we were doing right there. You know, back in those days, the epitome of, the king's astronomer had just the absolute best equipment there was, and that was like a 4-inch refractor telescope. Something that I've got sitting over in the corner right now that I'm not even using tonight. But what he did was he was systematically looking at the heavens, and he says, well, that looks like a comet, but it's not, but I'm going to mark its position so I don't make the mistake and don't waste time looking at it again. No, there can't technically be an Otis asteroid because Otis is a pet. I could attribute it to Otis Redding, and we'd all know that it was Otis, and Otis Redding would get a little perk too. Yeah, that's why I want to do it for Nathan. I want to make sure that I name something in space after somebody that denies space even exists because he doesn't understand the second law of thermodynamics. Okay, so we've got an image here. Let's go ahead and white balance it. That's good. Now let's see if we can get a nice image of it here. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of the tail there. Now you see all the noise in the black? We're definitely getting a tail there, but that's a comet. And that's what, that's how you tell the difference between a comet and a star. Now, I could take pictures of that for an hour, and then I could run it through Tycho Tracker, and I could calculate the orbit of that comet, and then I could make a report of that orbit to the Minor Planet Center, and that may help verify the orbit or nail it down a little bit more. Hey Wally, how are you tonight? How's my friend in Australia? Wally's one of those people, when you're a YouTube creator, there's not many people that you really, you generally don't give your full name and your home address and everything. Wally actually has all that on me, and he's sent me stuff, Judy's sent me stuff, I've sent them stuff. And as a matter of fact, Wally, I think I'm going to send you a book. Well, no, I can't. I can't because these guys don't ship internationally. I'm going to figure something out. Do you have a copy of Turn Left at Orion, Wally? But this is a comet we're looking at right now. All this stuff is available to people in their backyards. I've got, thanks to my benefactors and Patreons and everything and all the super chats and all that stuff, I have equipment that is similar to, honestly, it's kind of university level. We went out to the observatory at the university where my son goes, and we're looking at their 16-inch Schmidt Astrograph, and the astronomer was running us through. It was kind of like an open house for the community. My son had a look at the eyepiece of Jupiter, and then he comes back to me and says, Dad, your pictures are a hell of a lot better than that. That's because I've got equipment that is designed specifically to do certain things. My accuracy on the measurement of asteroids is actually better than the accuracy of Central Michigan University and Michigan State. So,
Yeah, it's a comet. That's because it's not a star, Wally. It's a comet. That's why it's blurry. That's a comet. It's not the green comet. You know, you see it doesn't have the same coloration as the other one did. But that's a different comet. So let's see which one that was. My apologies. I don't remember the name of it. All right. Now, this is PHD2, which is what we call tracking software. It's guiding software. So what it does is it takes a picture here in the upper left through my guide scope, and it identifies, you know, it sees these bright objects, stars, and it picked one down here that put a box around it. It says that's a great one, and then what it does is it guides on that star and it uses the other ones for rotation. So when I hit guiding, what it does is it locks the telescope to keep that star right in the crosshairs. And if you look over here at the bullseye, which is on the right side, that inner ring is 1 arc second, which is 1/3600th of a degree. So that's the accuracy of my guiding. And you can actually see where the telescope is guiding on the star itself just above it. Now down here in the red and the blue lines, what you're seeing is the corrections that are having to be made. The red lines are corrections in declination, and there's generally not much there. And then the blue lines are corrections in right ascension. And you see there's a little bit more, but it's on the order of an arc second. So it's just kind of keeping a little pressure on the scope to keep it centered right on that star. And as a result, I get nice round stars out here, and I've got a nice little comet sitting right there. And these are 2-minute exposures. So I'm going to go on over and I'm going to plug this computer into the power because I've been running this on battery the whole time. This is a great computer that I have right now. It's an Apple M1 MacBook. It's got plenty of power to do videos. It processes the videos extremely quickly. It allows me to live stream without crashing. It's kind of a nice little outfit. Well, while that's there, let's go ahead and have a look here real quick. Oh, by the way, that's it right there. It's C2020 V2 ZTF is the comet that we're looking at. It's a magnitude 10.6 comet. You know what the heck, so that's a magnitude 10 comet. As these numbers get higher, it gets dimmer. The top one on this list of the top 20 brightest is 17.5 magnitude. My limiting magnitude is about 19.5, so I should be able to see that too. Now the asteroids, we can have a look at asteroids, but the truth of the matter is asteroids are very difficult to see unless you look at them serially. In other words, you take a series of 60 images, and what will happen is that it'll line those images up to the stars in the background. You'll see one little object moving through that star field, and that's the asteroid. That requires time and software. It's very, very time consuming to do.
but that's what I do. That's the research that I do. And I'm just a regular old citizen. You know, I'm not a trained astronomer. I will be, one of these days I'd like to get a master's in astrophysics so I can complete the trifecta. That way I have a bachelor, a doctorate, and a master's. But, you know, it's not really necessary to do that. Let's... What this does, JPL major bodies, this is so if I wanted to look at the James Webb Space Telescope or Artemis, I could download the ephemeris for that. So it says that, you know, at this particular time, UTC, if you point your telescope from your location to this exact location, Artemis will be in the center of the frame. You know, that tells you where to point the telescope. But you have to get that from an organization called JPL Horizons, and this has an interface to it to pull that out. Let's look at deep sky objects right here and see what we have available to us. The stuff that's in green we should be able to see. God, getting old sucks. I can't see any of that. I gotta get my glasses. I have bifocal sunglasses. What does that say? Now the black-eyed galaxy is a nice one to look at. These times here are for me. So that's 10:04. Okay, we're at 10:30 right now, my time. The black-eyed galaxy is going to be in the east at 15 degrees. That's really too low for me to see. Beehive cluster is a possibility. See, Andromeda is all the way down to 25 degrees. That's in the trees now. Bowden Cigar Galaxy is kind of a neat one. Let's go look at that. We'll look at that one real quick, and then we'll have a look at the Bubble Nebula, if that's all right with you guys. Is this thing moving? For some reason, this is not responding to slew. Try one more thing over here. That's not responding to slew. So we'll do it the old-fashioned way. This is Stellarium. Okay, that's working. Otis, you leave Missy alone. Get her paw out of your mouth. All right. But Dad, she put it in there. Okay. We're looking at Bode's Galaxy here. Let's bring this over. I'm going to stop that. That's probably why I was probably having a problem. Forgot to turn off tracking. You know, having a good set of binoculars is a good thing to have. Use them for bird watching, use it for just looking in the night sky. You know, if you want to really get serious about getting some good astronomy gear, taking images and maybe doing some citizen science, you know, it's not cheap, but it's kind of on the order of a bass boat or an ATV. It's not on the order of a second house. You know, so if it's something that brings you a lot of joy, I mean, I know people that'll spend $10,000 on a stereo system. Okay, well, this is it. So let's go ahead and have a quick look at this. So let's just restart tracking right here. It's a little bit off center, but it's certainly not anything to worry about. As a matter of fact, I see all 3 targets that I want to see. So you see it's picked a star there. Now we'll track on that star. Now we'll go back over here. M81. You see 3 galaxies right here already. Right at the top, you see the Needle Galaxy. Bode's Galaxy is just off the center. Then if you go out at 9 o'clock from Bode's Galaxy, that's Gardner's Galaxy out there. So there are 3 galaxies in this image. What we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and do 2-minute images on this. And we're going to start stacking. See where that black line set a little bit off center to the peak? You see how we had some lightness in the middle of the frame? That just needs to be adjusted a little bit. So we're going to start stacking M81 here. That's Bode's Galaxy. Like I said, it's just off to the center, off of the center. I'm not worried about it. I see all 3 targets that I want to see, so I'm fine with that. How much longer am I going to be? I don't know. I'm probably kind of hitting that point. I'm supposed to have some weather coming in tonight. So what I may do is I may call her quits here in a moment. I thought it was Otis being the aggressor there. It's little Missy that's stalking Otis. She probably did stick her paw in his mouth just so I'd see it. Yeah, according to this, the weather's supposed to start coming in a little bit, so I think we're probably going to end it up here pretty fast. But this, these are the galaxies that I'm looking at. So, white balance. Now we're going to go on over here. Okay. This is a 1 exposure on Bode's Galaxy. It's a little bit noisy, but that's not too bad. That is the Needle Galaxy. Right out here should be Garland's Galaxy, right there. Stars are still nice and round. I'm pretty happy with the tracking. Let's let those develop a little bit. What do you say? I don't know if you can see very faintly here in the center. See, it's a little, space is a little darker here than it is over towards the galaxies. That's because this line right here, this black line, is just off that peak. There. That looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's let those develop for a few minutes and then we'll see what we get. Now let's see what this looks like. What? Dunham? Hey, cool. You gotta pull that up. This is Bode's Galaxy right here. Hey, Chris. Now, Judy, I don't think ever sleeps. She's worse than me. Okay, well, in any event, that's Bode's Galaxy. Now, if we go right up here, that's a cigar galaxy, and that's a better picture than they have over at CMU, to be honest with you. Let's check out Gardner's. It's an itty bitty one, isn't it? Yeah, the stars could be a little sharper, to be honest with you. I didn't refocus tonight. This is the same focus I've been using. Can I get all three of them in here? Almost. There we go. So, we have the Cigar Galaxy for obvious reasons. We have Bode's Galaxy, named after Mr. Bode. And we have Gardner's Galaxy, which is named after Mr. Gardner, or Mrs. Gardner, as the case may be. Well, are there any more requests for anything? We've looked at Andromeda, we've looked at Bode's, Gardner's, and Cigar Galaxies. Looked at satellites, looked at the Green Comet, looked at another comet. What else do we look at? Oh, the Orion Nebula. We looked at the Horsehead Nebula, the Flame Nebula. Yeah, that did turn out nice, didn't it? Tuloco, I take it you know your way around a telescope. This is a pretty decent astrophotograph, you think? This equipment really is nice. I'm very fortunate to have access to this and know how to use it. All right, last target of the evening. I'm going to go ahead and turn off tracking for a moment. Look at, oh my God, that's good tracking.
I'm tracking with an accuracy of 0.036 arc seconds. Look at this bullseye over here. I think I'd qualify if I was on the range with that. This is why it's important to have a really good mount. You know, it saves so much for. Remember how much frustration I had with that damn LX200 mount? Never worked right as long as I had it. The guy stood by his work, but he wasn't all that pleasant to work with, you know. So let's go over here. Oh, shoot, hit the wrong one. I didn't want that. I wanted that. I'll turn that off in a minute. Let's look at something called the Leo triplet. And that's where we're going to go. While we're doing that, I'm going to turn this thing off. So we're heading over to the Leo triplet. I am going to drop this down to 4 seconds. The reason that I was able to get this imaging so fast is the RASA is an f2.2 telescope. It is what we call an extremely fast telescope. It's a combination of a short focal length and a big aperture. So it's an 11-inch telescope that has the focal length of an 80mm refractor. So, I mean, it's really, really fast. A 2 or 3 minute image with this is 15 or 20 minutes with a typical Meade Schmidt-Cassegrain. Now, why is this not giving me a new image? I know it moved. Turn this off for a sec. I'm just going to restart SharpCap real quick. This one next to SharpCap is something called Sequence Generator Pro. That's going to be really nice in the future because I'm going to be able to, you know, when the observatory dome is set up and everything, I'll be able to set up a sequence to say, okay, well, I want to get 2 hours worth of images at this spot, and then I want to refocus and plate solve and shift over to this position, and I want to get 2 hours of images here, and then I want to do the whole thing again and get 2 hours of images over here, and I can go to bed. I don't have to stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning anymore. You know, and the thing will just run all on its own. Now, these are part of the Leo triplet, the Hamburger Galaxy and stuff like that, but let's go ahead and plate solve and sync this where I want it to be. And while I do that, I'm going to grab something to drink real quick. Okay, so it's plate solved and it's shifting over to where it wanted to be in the first place. It thought it was there, and then okay, so here's the Leo triplet right here. See that vignetting?
Oh, that looks nice. Okay, we're going to guide there. Go back over here. Okay, so that's set up and waiting for the first image. Now you see me go over to this program every now and then, quite a bit actually. This is called Stellarium. And if you go on out here to the configuration and plugins, you go down here to telescope control, and you can set this up so that it slaves to your telescope. So in other words, I can find a target here, and I can tell it to slew the telescope to that spot, and it'll send that to ASCON, which is the program that connects the telescope mount to the computer, and it'll cause it to slew over to the spot, and then it'll tell you where your telescope's looking. So right here, here's the Leo triplet that we're looking at. See? And that's what we're supposed to look at. I know that's the hamburger galaxy. These are M something or others. But that's what we're looking for. Now the real skill with this is what Tulako is talking about, and that is, say I wanted to get these images. If I had a slower telescope, I may have to get 20 hours worth of images in order to pull something like this up. And that means that I'd have to do it over 3 or 4 different nights. There is a lot of skill involved in getting images of the same thing over 3 or 4 different nights, and then integrating them all together in Photoshop so that they all lined up, and they were stacked into big stacks. And then you have, I track things for 2 to 3 minutes tops. I could probably go a little longer, but the longer you try and expose the camera, the bigger chance that an airplane's going to fly through, or a bird's going to nest on the end of your, on the end of the telescope, or a gust of wind's going to come through and jiggle it. All of these things all these things will ruin an image. And the longer you have to expose an image, the more chance there is that something's going to ruin the image. So by taking fast images, I can avoid a lot of that. So hats off to you, my man. You've got the tough job. Because of the equipment that I have, I just have a lot easier job of doing this, and it's a lot more fun, I think, in my book. All right. So once again, we're going to white balance it, get those curves all lined up with each other. And we're going to put the black curve right at the peak. We're going to bring out the mid-range until it gets to where the slope changes. I'm going to bring in the whites just a little bit. Let's bring it in like that. Just kind of bring this out until the field is uniformly black. You see how small those galaxies are? This is why you need some focal length to do this. Where's that last freaking galaxy? Huh. There it is. Further apart than I thought it was. That's the hamburger galaxy right there. It's not looking very good. It's really, really noisy. But you can definitely see some form to it there. It's also that's 6 minutes worth of images. It's coming together. So this one looks a lot more organized than that one does. That's a barred galaxy right there, I think. That's more of a spiral galaxy. That's just a galaxy on edge. You see the dust clouds here. That's what this brown is. Oh, yeah, that's right. We saw the Pleiades, too. That was a pretty shot of the Pleiades. Are those small galaxies bigger than our Milky Way? I don't know. I don't know. Guess we might be able to get a little information on them. Now let's see what it says about it. Don't know. Let's go see. When in doubt. Here is the hamburger galaxy. $95 million light, or 35 million light years away. Andromeda is 2.5. It's an unbarred spiral galaxy. The Andromeda galaxy is 2.5 million light years away, so this is quite a bit further. It's approximately 300,000 light years long. Let's go compare that to the Andromeda galaxy. It has a it is 46 parsecs. It's 46,000 parsecs So 46,000 parsecs times, it's a parsec, 3.24 light years. So that's 150,000 light years according to, my back of the envelope thing. Oh, by the way, it's not a billion stars, it's a trillion stars. Huh. That's a lot of stars. That sounds like it's bigger than ours. It sounds like it's bigger than Andromeda, and Andromeda's bigger than the Milky Way. Stuff's just mind-boggling. It's so big. Hey, coffee. Coffee is the nemesis of the guys over on Earth Awakenings. This is the Leo triplet that we're looking at now. I think we had to do 33% to see it all. So there's the Leo triplet, Hamburger Galaxy. And that is about 10 minutes worth of exposure. And that's located right here by the lion's tail. So here's the constellation Leo. Tell you what, while that's generating a few more, let's look at a couple of things here. Now, if you look at the belt of Orion, and you follow the belt of Orion, it brings you to Sirius. The shoulders of Orion bring you out to Procyon. The club reaches up towards Gemini, and right underneath Orion is Lepus, the rabbit. You can see that over here too with the Big Dipper, or Ursa Major. So, what you do is you see, if you look at the handle of the Big Dipper, well, a couple of things you can do with the Big Dipper. First of all, if you look at these two stars right at the end of the Big Dipper, and go 5 times the distance and a little bit off to the right, you end up at the North Star. If you follow the handle of the Big Dipper, you arc to Arcturus, which is the anchor star of the ice cream cone constellation Boötes, and then straight on to Spica. So you arc to Arcturus, and then straight on to Spica. And you can see that right here. There's Spica. But that's below the horizon right now. Let's find out something. Let's see something else that is kind of cool out here. Now, look at the star, and here at Orion,
you'll see the star Rigel at his left knee. Okay. Then you look over to the dog star, Canis Major or Cirrus, and then up to Prochyron, and that is called the Winter Triangle. There's also a Summer Triangle. Now, the zodiacal constellations: Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus. Now, the stars in the twins, Gemini, are called Pallas and Castor. Okay? And the way that you tell the difference is Castor is the one that's on the right, as you look at it here. And if you look down, his leg is not straight like the legs in Pallas. His leg's in a cast. And that's how you remember that. Now, Auriga, this constellation right here, is a big hexagon in the sky, and it's very easy to see. And its anchor star right here is Capella. Capella is the disco ball star. If you ever have a chance, look over, you can see where Orion is. You can see the Pleiades out here in Taurus. That'll kind of give you an idea of where Capella is. That thing looks like a disco ball. It just sits and shimmers in different colors. And, it's the party light of the stars. There's Prince Perseus, Princess Andromeda, Queen Cassiopeia, King Cepheus, Draco the Dragon, Ursa Major and Minor, here and here, and Camelopardalis. Now, stars are named after the Arabic, or they're named sometimes Latin or Greek, and Camelopardalis is just what it sounds like. That's right, it's a giraffe. It's an interesting story behind Coma Berenice. Berenice was a princess, or was a queen. And I think that she was married to Pharaoh. And what happened was, she got mad at her husband once and went down to the temple and sacrificed her beautiful hair. And she came back with a bob cut, and her husband was absolutely infuriated that she had done that. And he insisted that the priests keep her hair available for him to come visit. And he did that for months, and then one day the hair was gone. And the priest said, well, we put it in the sky so you could always see it. So Coma, or hair of Berenice, is the hair of Berenice. Excuse me if I'm really screwing up the pronunciation. Let's go back here. I'll tell you what, there is one thing I do want to show you guys, which is kind of neat. My family and I went on a cruise over the Christmas holidays. And up in front of the ship, just underneath the bridge, there's a helipad. And because the bridge is right up there, what they do is they turn off all the lights so they can actually see ahead of the boat and miss the icebergs. I did ask them about icebergs, by the way. They reminded me that we were in the Caribbean. I said, I don't care. In my luck, they'll still be there. But the stars were very different down there because that was 20 degrees north latitude, and I'm up here at 45. So let's go have a look and see a couple of the things that I noticed. So Alma or Saginaw. If you want to look at this stuff in the future and you want to ask for targets, if you go to Stellarium and put Alma or Saginaw, Michigan in, you'll get me. Oh, heck. Oh, hell yes. 35 Celsius? That's about the temperature of the sun. That's about the temperature of the sun, isn't it? Yeah. Well, you got to hold it upside down, though. Yeah. Yep. How come this thing doesn't have Port-au-Prince in here? When in doubt. None of these places are in. None of these places that I want to go are in. Okay, so that's about right where we were. Okay, so this is the stars down where I was on the ship. And, you know, Virgo was up. The Big Dipper would go below the horizon, which kind of blew my mind. And if you look at these weird things. Who ever heard of something called the Carina? And this thing down here. What the hell is that? Yeah, that's not in my astrology chart. It's not in the Bible either. I don't think the Cruce is in the Bible. But I was actually far enough. I think I saw this son of a gun. There were a couple of them. I did see the Carina. I know that. But here's, you know, to give you an idea, here's Canis Major. All right? But here's the freakiest thing. That's Polaris. All right? Polaris is not that far. Yeah, it's all because of perspective. But, you know, I mean, the first time when I was trying to figure out where the heck I was, because I didn't recognize a lot of things because they were 30, 40 degrees off. Well, they were 20, 30 degrees off. And the Big Dipper, all of the handle of the Big Dipper was below the horizon. Only these two stars right up here were visible, and they were down here. And I'm thinking, God, oh my God, that's the freaking North Star right there. And I mean, I'm like, wow. And I said, I got to look south. And I saw all these weird things that I'd never seen before. Yeah, the moon's upside down even. I am going to get down to Australia. One of these days I am going to come to Australia, and I think I'm going to couch surf for about a month while I'm down there. I think. Yeah. Yeah. What are those big blobs up there, man? They keep saying Magellanic clouds. Oh my God. We don't have any clouds. I don't know. I think after about 3 days, you're going to find me curled up in a fetal position in one of Wolfie's closets. He's going, no, it's okay. It's okay, Bob. It's okay. Rob, but the stars. Yeah. Where's Cassiopeia, man? Yeah. 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 That's a good thought. I'm going to have to think about that. I don't know. I don't know. You're making me think too much. It's late and I'm having to think. I've got a freaking project tomorrow. And of course, I've got to be on the road tomorrow. That's not Stellarium there. That's my image. I don't know if it's still up. You want to see? Yeah. Yeah, it's way up there. But in any event, here, we did it earlier, but because you just got in, let me go ahead and put this on for you. Hey, it works. I've done some weird shit. I've done, I do long distance shooting, and I've got rifles with really good scopes on it. And I've set up loopholes in my house so that I don't scare the neighbors, but I've done observations with that. Yeah, my wife would be enjoying herself. I'd be curled up in a ball with cognitive dissonance and astronomy overload. Wolfie'd probably, take one look at me and put me in his condo over in freaking Perth and say, "Look, just we have DoorDash here too. Just stay inside for a while until you can handle it." What was I doing? Oh, I'm going to find you the comment. Sorry about that. Now, tomorrow I'm going to measure the distance to the sun. Tomorrow is the third quarter at 11 a.m., which means the third quarter, the half moon and the sun are both in the sky at the same time. And I have a sextant. So, comet green. So I'm going to actually physically go on out and measure the distance to the sun. My goal is to be within 20%. If I can do that, I'm going to be really, really happy, considering I'm leaning on my car with a sextant sideways. When Blue and I did the radius of the Earth, I think both of us were within 100 kilometers of it. And I just had well, yeah, I can do better than Aristarchus too. He said it was 40 times the distance to the moon. I'm thinking I'm going to get at least 350, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, the funny thing about it was he had like a 72-inch dowel that he used, and I had a roofer square. and I still got it within 100 kilometers. He did better than I did, of course, but I still had a pretty reasonable result. So what I'm doing right now, for those of you that aren't real familiar with Stellarium, is what I'm doing is I went to the sequence planner and I put in my target RA and declination, and it's automatically slewed over there. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this to 4-second exposures. I don't think you guys can see my cursor, but I think you're getting the idea. You can? Oh, very good. Yep. And there and down. So you go here to Tools, and it's Plate Solve with Resync. So what it'll do is it'll capture an image, it'll plate solve it, and then realize where it is, and then move to where you told it to be. And it'll like center it directly, it'll center it dead on. It's amazing stuff. I used to have to do it in a couple of different
iterations in astrophotography tool. This is so much nicer. Okay, something's wrong here. Stellarium? Yep. Oh yeah, it just plate solves it. I screwed something up on this. Give me a second. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Well, they've been using plate solving for years. I mean, it's pretty much consumer technology now. It's nothing really major. Hey. Cool. You know how they did the original catalogs, right? Had a bunch of nuns sitting there looking at measuring plates. Yeah. Yeah, they had a bunch of... Yeah. No, I'm talking about the ones that they measured down to the micrometer. You know, I mean the arc second. They would take the photographic plates around 1900 or so, and they cataloged them all. There were like 10 or 15 sites that did it. The Vatican was one of them. They said, we want 4 nuns that are very meticulous. They sat there at little tables and did it. Okay, what? Okay, so here's our star field. Okay, so we're going to go over here to Tools, and we're going to go to Plate Solve with Resync, because I don't see the comet there. But then again, it's also at 100%. No, it's at 100%. No, it's there. It's right there. I'm just lining it up. There we go. Come on, Plate Solve, damn it. There we go. 0.18 degrees off. So now what it'll do is it'll shift it and put it right in the center. Let's see how she does. Oh, I know what's wrong. Comet moved. Those ephemeris are about an hour and a half old. That's where it was an hour and a half ago. That's where it is now. But in any event, you want to see the comet? There, my friend. There's the comet. And like I said, I'm very, very fortunate in that I have a lot of supporters for this channel. And as a result of that, I've got some really university level equipment here. I mean, what we're shooting right now, give you an idea of what we're doing. And this is a RASA 11, an f2.2 11-inch modified SCT. So, I mean, it's an astrograph. And it's on a Celestron CGX-L mount, which is a 75-pound capacity mount. And the camera's new. And it is a ZWO 6200 color, which, I mean, you can't get any better than that. You just can't. I do think I ought to guide that, though. CGI. Well, you know, I mean, The Giant Magellan Telescope, the camera on that's about $1 million. This one's not much less. I never would have bought this. I never would have been able to afford something like this. And so, and then, you know, I had help putting the deck together, and we've got a dome coming. So it's really starting to come together. Let's see if we can get you some decent shots of it. Yeah. Well, this is what I plan on doing. You know, I've been doing medicine since I was 19 years old. And, you know, I will probably do it the rest of my life as a consultant. But I think I'm going to go get the trifecta. You know, I've got a bachelor's and a doctorate. I think I'm going to get a master's in astrophysics. And I'm going to try and teach this stuff. I'd like to be a high school teacher. It will be the kids' worst nightmare. Let's prove the Earth isn't flat. Let's track the ISS. All right, so the reason this is all screwed up right now is right here. First, you have to normalize the curve out here, and then what you have to do is you have to white balance it here by matching up these curves. You can do it with the sliders, but the easiest way is just kind of hit the automatic. And then what you want to do is you want to bring the black level right to the peak. And then you want to bring the mid-range right to where, right past where the slope changes here. And then you want to get the proper framing in. Oh, damn, that's nice. Look at that. That is really nice. I'm glad you insisted I go back to this. Yeah, I've got good condition. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you got that, you see the tail coming down in here? I don't see the ion tail, but this is one image. Well, I've had, when, what was it, Neowise came by? I sent that one in because it was a nice shot over the lake here. And, you know, like, you're right, I might. See, the problem is I'm doing sidereal tracking with this. I'm not tracking the comet. So what's going to happen is I'd stack this is it's going to blur out. Yeah. I put it into Tycho Tracker the other day, and that thing's hauling ass. I mean, it just goes zoop. Because when Tycho Tracker, well, we're on a paleo diet. Yeah. You ever look at those statistics? Remember, not long ago, I was doing that. Yeah, I was doing that series on. The Spanish influenza, and part of my research for that is I looked into the morbidity. You know, I looked at the morbidity and mortality stats. Do you realize between 1918 and 1920, mostly in 1918, the average lifespan dropped by 12 years for men and women in 1 year. 12 years. That really turned out nice, man. I'm pleased with that. Let me see if I can get 5 images on it, and then we'll. The problem is the comet. The tail is stretched out in the z-axis here. Because I don't see the ion trail at all, but I definitely have a nice corona. I've got a nice body and a nice tail here. Multiple colors. You got the brown in the tail, and then you got the green of the corona. That really worked out well. Yeah, it could be. Those stars are pretty. They're a little bloaty, but they're nice and round. They're not egg-shaped at all. But you see, I've got a lot of noise here. Let's get back over here and check something. I'm thinking the cooler turned off when I restarted. Cooler on? No, it's on and cooled to -20. Let's go see. Does it actually read what it is? According to that, it is -20. Well, it's actually pretty warm today. It's up in the mid-30s. You want to see something cool about the mount? This is the software, the Celestron PlaneWave interface, and this is how you run the mount. So you connect it up here by USB or by. I don't have wireless, but you can get wireless with this. But when you do that, it also collects. It also connects your DO system, your Celestron DO system, and it connects your focuser. So the focuser is connected to that as well. It's all interconnected. Yep, and that's what I do. I'm on Chrome Desktop right now. You know, you think I'm going to sit outside in this kind of weather? Oh no, I'm not that dedicated. I'm not that dedicated at all. Ah, cool. Well, you know it's bad if they don't even have a name for it. I like the original one, the one down in Antarctica. Ah, well, it's cold. Who the hell cares which side it is? South Pole doesn't exist anyhow. Yep. But in any event, total RMS 0.17. Look at that target, man. You know, God, this is tracking really well tonight. The astronomy gods are definitely with me. I got to figure out Sequence Generator Pro. You know what? That's starting to blur. Poor Fitz files. Well, that's 5. That's too many. It's starting to blur. You see it? So I'm going to do it 3 times for the paper. I suppose I probably ought to turn off YouTube because I don't think they hear your end. I don't have it set up so that Discord is broadcasting. They probably just hear me talking to myself. They're beginning to wonder about me. There we go. Yeah, but I didn't set it up. So you're not going to? Actually, that's good enough right there. I think I'm gonna give it 2 or 3 at most. Wally, I'll give you a tour of the mount. I'm going to be working probably Tuesday on doing a collimation video, and I'll make sure that I go out and show the mount. Actually, I've got to do a collimation video, and then I've got to do a balanced video. So I think I'll probably do that and just show how to balance a mount. I've got a series going on right now called Lessons Learned in Astronomy, and it's all the mistakes that I've made in the last 3 years. And, you know, all the stupid things that I did, such as trying to make a LX200 work. You know, just try and save people. You know, it's folks that are, you know, I'm doing it for folks that are somewhat interested in astronomy beyond the point of maybe buying a Tasco telescope, or they actually want to go out and get something that, you know, they can take pictures with. So I've gone over different types of telescopes, the different types of mounts. I'm going to do a collimation video. I'm going to do a balance video, just you know, the basic stuff. And then I'm going to have another series called Electronic Assisted Astronomy, which is what I'm doing right here, where I'm interfacing the computer with a telescope and running it remotely and making the programs all work together. All right, I'm going to take one more image and then, actually, yeah, let me have one more image. I'm happy with that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's comet dust. That's comet dust. The brown there that we're looking at, guys, is comet dust. Yeah, Bob, you need a good tool chain of software. A good tool chain of software. All right, I'm going to try and figure out what that means first of all, and then I'm going to do it for Wally. A good tool chain of software. Ah, the electronics workflow. I figured that's probably what it was. All right, I'm happy with this. I am happy with this. So let's just make life easy. There. One and done. So now I have an image. Now I got another image. I'm pretty happy with that. A little bit off here, but that can be fixed. I'll put that in Photoshop and just kind of even that out a little bit, flatten it a little. But I'm good with that. Okay. Well, guys, I think that's about it for what we have. I think I'm going to go ahead and shut down the YouTube. I'll probably hang out here for a little while. Who is this? No, that's not a message for me. Okay. Well, in any event, I think we've got everything done here. Well, guys, thank you very much for stopping by, sharing a little time doing a hobby that I love. Normally, I kind of work at it because I'm doing the asteroid work, but every now and then I just like to go out and poke around in the universe because it's just a fascinating place to be. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. Thank you all for joining me. Make sure you hit me a little like and subscribe here on Shamrock Banks Observatory. You ever feel like helping out with a dome or some of the equipment? There's a PayPal and Patreon links down in the description. Take care, guys.